audiobook of 11th class biology NCERT. Let's begin with the first chapter, Unit 1, Diversity in the Living World. Chapter 1, Living World. What is living? When we try to define living, we conventionally look for the distinctive characteristic exhibited by the living organism: growth, reproduction, ability to sense environment and mount a suitable response come to our mind immediately as unique feature of living organism. One can add a few more features like metabolism, ability to self-replicate, self-organize, interact, and emergence to this list. Let us try to understand each of this. All living organisms grow. Increase in mass and increase in number of individuals are twin characteristics of growth. A multicellular organism grows by cell division in plants. This growth by cell division occurs continuously throughout their lifespan in animals. This growth is seen only up to certain age. However, cell division occurs in the certain tissue to replace lost cells. Unicellular organisms also grow by cell division. One can easily observe this in vitro cultures by simply counting the number of cells under the microscope. In majority of the higher animals and plants, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive events. One of the most remember that increase in body mass is considered as growth. Non-living objects also grow if we increase in body mass as criterion for growth. Mountains, boulders, and sand mounds do grow. However, this kind of growth exhibited by non-living objects is by accumulation of material on the surface. In living organism, growth is from inside. Therefore, growth cannot be defined as property of living organism. Condition under which it can be observed in all living organisms have to be explained, and then we understand that it is characteristic of living system. A dead organism do not grow. Reproduction likewise is characteristic of living organism. In multicellular organism, reproduction refers to production of progeny possessing features more or less similar to those of parents invariably, and implicitly we refer to sexual reproduction. Organisms reproduce asexually means also fungi multiply and spread easily due to millions of asexual spores they produce. In lower organisms like yeast, hydra, we observe budding. In planaria, flatworms, we observe true regeneration, that is fragmented organism regenerates the lost part of the body and it becomes a new organism. The fungi, the filamentous algae, the protonema of mosses all easily multiply by fragmentation. When it comes to unicellular organism like bacteria, unicellular algae or amoeba reproduction is synonym with growth, that is increase in number of cells. We have already defined growth as equivalent to increase in cell number or mass. Hence you notice that in single cell organism we are not very clear about the usage of these two terms, growth and reproduction. Further, there are many organisms which do not reproduce: mules, sterile, worker bees, infantile couples, etc. Hence reproduction also cannot be allowed. Inclusively defining characteristic of living organism. Of course, non-living objects is capable of reproducing or replicating by itself. Another characteristic of life is metabolism. All living organisms are made up of chemicals. The KISS chemicals are small and big, belonging to various classes, sizes, function, etc. are constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecules. These conversations are chemical reactions or metabolic reactions. These are thousands of metabolic reactions occurring simultaneously inside all organisms, be they unicellular or multicellular, or plants, animals, fungi, microbes exhibit metabolism. The sum total of all chemical reactions occurring in our body is metabolism. No non-living object exhibit metabolism. Metabolism reaction can be demonstrated outside the body in cell-free system. An isolated metabolic reaction outside the body of an organism performed in the test tube is neither living or not living. Hence, while metabolism is a defining feature of all living organisms without exception, isolated metabolic reaction in vitro are not living things but surely living reactions. Hence, cellular organisms of the body is a defining feature of life form. Perhaps the most obvious and technically complicated feature of all living organisms is the ability to sense their surrounding or environment and response to various environmental stimuli, which could be physical, chemical, or biological. We sense our environment through our sense organs. Plants respond to external factors like light, water, temperature, and other organism pollutants, etc. All organisms from the prokaryote to most complex eukaryote can sense and respond to environmental cues. Photopred affects reproduction in seasonal predators, both plants and animals. All organisms handle chemical entering their bodies. All organisms therefore are aware of their surrounding. Human being is also only organism who is aware of himself, that is, has self-consciousness. Consciousness therefore becomes the defining property of living organism. When it comes to human beings, it is all the more difficult to define the living state. We observe patients lying in coma in hospital, virtually separated by machine, which replace the hearts and lungs. The patient is otherwise brain dead. The patient has no self-consciousness. Are such patients who never come back to normal life, living or non-living? In higher classes, you will come to know how living phenomena are due to the underlying interactions. Properties of tissue are not present in constituent cell but arise as a result of interaction among the constituent cells. Similarly, properties of cell organelles are not present in the molecular constituents of organelle but arise as a result of interaction among the molecular component comprising the organelle. These interactions result in emergent properties at a higher level of organism. This phenomenon is true in hierarchy, organizational complexity at all levels. Therefore, we can say that living organisms are self-replicating, evolving, and self-regulating interactive systems capable of responding to external stimuli. Biology is a story of life on Earth. Biology is a story of evolution of living organisms on Earth. All the living organisms present in past, future are linked to one another by sharing their common genetic material, but to varying degrees. 1.2 Diversity in living world. If you look around you, will see a large variety of living organisms, be it potted plants, insects, birds, your pets, or other animals and plants. There are also several organisms that you cannot see with your naked eyes, but they are all around you. If you were to increase the area that you make observation in, the range of variety of organisms that you see would increase. Obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably increase such great number of kinds of living organisms in it. Each different kind of plant, animal, and organism that you see represent a species. The number of species that are known and described range is about 1.7 to 1.8 million. This refers to biodiversity, or the number of types of organisms present on Earth. We should remember here that as we explore new areas and even old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified. As stated earlier, there are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know that plants and animals in our own area by their local names. By local names would vary from place to place. Even within a country, probably you would have recognized the confusion that would be created if did not find ways and means to talk to each other to refer organism we are talking about. Hence, there is need to standardize the naming of living organisms such that a particular organism is known by same name all over the world. The process is called nomenclature. Obviously, nomenclature or naming is possible when the organism is described correctly and we know to what organism the name is attached. This is identification. In order to facilitate the study, number of scientists have established procedure to assign scientific name to each organism. This is acceptable in biologists all over the world. For plants, scientific names are based on agreed principle and criteria which we are provided in International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, which is also in short from ICBN. You may ask, how are animals named? Animal taxonomists have evolved International Code of Zoological Nomenclature ICZN. The scientist's name ensure that each organism has only one name. Description of organism should be enabled to people in any part of the world to arrive the same name. They also ensure that such names have been used for any other known organism. Biologists follow universal accepted principle to provide scientific names to known organisms. Each has two components, the generic name and specific name. The system providing a name with two components is called binomial nomenclature. This nomenclature system is by Carlos Linnaeus. It is being practiced by biologists all over the world. This naming system, a two-word format, was found convenient. Let us take an example of mango to understand the way of providing scientific names better. The scientific name of mango is written as Mangifera indica. Let us see how is binomial nomenclature in this. In this name, the Mangifera represents the genus, while indica is a particular species of specific epithet. Other universal rules of nomenclature are given below. First rule: biological names are generally in Latin and written in italics. They are Latinized or derived from Latin, irrespective of their origin. Second rule: the first word in the biological name represents the genus, while the second name denotes the specific epithet. Both the words in biological name, when handwritten, are separately underlined or printed in italics to indicate their Latin origin. This is third rule. And fourth rule: the first word denoting the genus starts with capital letter, while the specific epithet starts with small letter. It can be illustrated with example of Mangifera indica, in which M is capital and I for indica is small. Name of the author appears after the specific epithet, that is the end of biological name, and is written in abbreviated form. Example: Mangifera indica Lin. It indicates that the species was first described by Linnaeus. Since it is nearly impossible to study all living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make this possible. This process is called classification. Classification is process by which anything is grouped into convenient category based on some easily observable characteristics. For example, we easily recognize groups of such as plants, animals, or dogs, cats, insects. The moment we use any of the other terms, we associate certain characteristics with organisms in that group. While what image do you certain character with an organism in this group? Obviously, each one of us will see dogs and cats. Now, if you think about Alsatians, we know that what we are talking about. Similarly, suppose we were to say mammals, you would of course think of animals, external ears, body, hairs. Likewise, in plants, if we try to talk about wheat, the picture in each of our minds will be of a wheat plant, not rice or any other plant. Hence, all of this, dogs, cat, mammal, wheat, rice plant, animals, etc., are convenient categories we use to study organisms. This scientific term of this category is taxa. Here You must recognize that the taxa can indicate category at a very different level. Plants also form a taxa. Wheat is also taxa. Similarly, animals, mammals, dogs are all taxa, but the dog is mammal and mammals are animals. Therefore, animals, mammals, and dogs represent taxa at different levels. Hence, based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. This process of classification is taxonomy. External and internal structures, along with structure of cell, development process, and ecological information organisms are essential and form of basis modern taxonomic studies. Human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about different kinds of organisms and their diversities, but also about the relationship among them. This branch of study was referred to as systemics. Next, 1.3 taxonomic categories. Classification is not single-step process but involves hierarchy of steps in which each step represents a rancor or category. Since this category is a part of our overall taxonomic arrangement, it is called taxonomic category, and all categories together constitute taxonomic hierarchy. Each category, referred to as unit of classification, in fact represents rank and is commonly termed as taxon. Taxonomic category and hierarchy can be illustrated further according to the example given below. 1.3.1 Species. Taxonomic study is considered a group of individual organisms with fundamental similarities are termed as species. 1.3.2 Genus. Genus comprises of group of related species which has more character in common in comparison to species of the other genera. 1.3.3 Family. The next category is family. Has a group of related genera with still less number of similarities as compared to genus and species. 1.3.4 Order. You have seen earlier the category like species, genus, and family are based on number of similarities. Generally, order and other higher taxonomic categories are identified based on aggregate categories. Order being a higher category is assemblage of families which exhibit a few similar characteristics. 1.3.5 Class. This category include related order. For example, order Primata comprises monkey, gorilla, and gibbon is placed in class Mammalia, along with order Carnivora that includes animal like tiger, cat, dog. Class Mammalia has other orders also. 1.3.6 Phylum. Class comprising animals like fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, along with mammals constitute the next higher category called phylum. Next, 1.3.7 Kingdom. All animals belong to various phyla are assigned to higher category called kingdom. Animalia is classification system of animals. Figure 1.1 Taxonomic categories showing hierarchical arrangement in ascending order. Species, genus, families, order, class, phylum or division. Kingdom. Taxonomic aids. 1.4 Taxonomic studies of various species, plants, animals, and other organisms are useful in agriculture, forestry, industry in general, in knowledge and knowing our bioresources and their diversity. These studies would require correct classification and identification of organisms, require intensive laboratory and field studies. Next, 1.4.1 Herbarium. Herbarium is storehouse of collected plant specimens that are dried, pressed, and preserved on sheet. Further, these sheets are arranged according to the universal accepted system of classification. These specimens, along with description and herbarium sheets, became storehouse of repository of future. Figure shown 1.2. Next, 1.4.2 Botanical gardens. The species listed garden have been collection of living plants for reference plant species in gardens and grown for identification purpose, and each plant is labeled in indicating its botanical, scientific, and its family. The famous Botanical Garden at Kew, England, Indian Botanical Garden at Howrah, India, and at National Botanical Garden Research Institute, Lucknow, India. Next, 1.4.3 Museum. Biological museums are generally set up in educational institutes such as schools and colleges. Museums have collection of pressed plant and animal, preserved plants and animals specimens for study and reference. Zoological Park. 1.4.4 These are places where wild animals are kept in protected environment under human care, which enable us to learn about their food habitats and behavior. Next is 1.4.5 Key. Key is another taxonomical aid used for identification of plants and animals based on their similarities and dissimilarities. Next is flora, manuals, and monographs are catalogs, are some other means of recording descriptions. They also help in correct identification. Flora contains the actual account of habitat and distribution of plants of given area. This provides the index to plant species found in a particular area. Manuals are used in providing information for identification of name of species found in an area. Monographs contain identification of any one taxon. Here we finish audiobook of Living World chapter. Let's meet soon in the next video. Thank you guys.